So first and foremost, on a personal level, I don't know Dave Benavidez. I've never met Dave Benavidez, and I've definitely never met his girl. So I can't really speak to them as people. And even if I could, I wouldn't do it just because this is a boxing channel. This isn't Gossip Girl. But with this recent situation where Dave Benavidez's girl has called off the wedding and made a big deal about it on social media, I feel like I could use the situation to speak to something greater than just boxing, and as well as boxing itself. So that's what I'm gonna do here, and I mean no disrespect in any way, shape, or form, and I want to make that very clear. I come with peace, I come with class, I come with honor when I speak about such a sensitive topic. But yeah, Dave Benavidez and his girl were supposed to get married. She went to social media recently. She made it very clear that they're not going to get married because David has issues and things that he's going through, and I see it as a cry for help from her on her end, but I also see it as something that she probably shouldn't have done because she subjected herself and her family to a lot of public opinions that they don't need, right? You don't need that. But what I can say about David is I remember like 2 years ago, back in early 2024, when he had first moved to Miami. I remember telling a lot of people in the fight game, reporters, a lot of people in the media, that I thought that was good. I found it very intriguing because I've been telling fighters for well over 10 years now in boxing that are from out of town, you know, South Florida, and I'm talking about Fort Lauderdale as well, but Miami, Fort Lauderdale, the whole South Florida area, it is the hardest place for a man to focus on what he has to do, especially if you're a fighter, because there's yes, there's definitely beautiful women everywhere in the world. That is true. But in Miami, it's on a whole different level. Everything's on a whole different level. Some of the most beautiful women in the world reside in the South Florida area. And if you're not from South Florida, even if you are from South Florida, I grew up in South Florida. I grew up in Dania Beach. Like, it's just a hard place to remain disciplined. If you have sexual undiscipline, you'll get exposed. If you have lack of if you have a drug addiction, you'll get exposed. If you have problems managing your money, all of it gets exposed in South Florida. You understand? So I always knew that for a guy like Dave Benavidez, being a 6 foot plus tall, fighter with a lot of money and status in the world, it was gonna bring forth a lot of temptation that maybe he wasn't prepared to deal with. And you gotta remember, this is a Dave Benavidez that before he ever moved to South Florida, he was a guy that lost his title on the scale, or lost his title because of cocaine. He tested positive for cocaine. So he already had things he was bringing in. He already had things he was dealing with already. So I always raise my eyebrow at that. Being an active fighter training in South Florida, I wouldn't recommend it to most people, to be honest with you. Then I remember in and around that same time, not too shortly after he moved to South Florida, I was out there in Vegas at the Fountain Blue covering Richardson Hitchens versus Gustavo Lemos, and Benavidez came to watch Diego Pacheco, his friend, who fought on the undercard, and that was the infamous interview where he was wearing the white and black T-shirt, where he was drunk, and Chris Mannix interviewed him, and that right there was a big warning sign and wake up call that something was going on with Dave Benavidez, right? Now look, I reiterate, I've never met Dave Benavidez in my life. I've been in the same rooms with him, but we never spoken. I met his dad multiple times, but never him. Never talked to him. But from the reports I get, Dave Benavidez, by all accounts, is a very generous and kind person with people and with kids. We had a kid. I used to live in a town called Homestead down in South Florida, and my boy Eric Lantis Jr., who's a professional fighter, he had a gym there that I used to go train at. And there was a kid there, little young kid, like probably less than 10 years old. He used to come out the gym and train, and his dad would always come out of the gym and tell us about, taking his son to go meet Benavidez, how nice Benavidez was to his son, and how Benavidez would give his son free tickets to go watch him fight in Las Vegas. Then I saw that same kid in Las Vegas when I went to go cover Benavidez versus Alexander Gvozdyk. So that's the kind of guy Dave Benavidez is. Also, I know Dave Benavidez has sparred with one of my good friends, in South Florida, Lorenzo Medina, the heavyweight, the giant killer. Good young kid, a little misguided himself, trying to find his own way. And Benavidez, they sparred each other, and he was very kind to him and instilled a lot of confidence in him. So David Benavidez, by all accounts, from people I know in my real life, is a very generous and kind person. Just in life, that's the kind of guy he is. Um, I'm not gonna comment too much on like the whole situation with him and his girl. That's their business. But what I will say is, it would be a real shame if all this can if all this prevents him from reaching his full potential in boxing, because Dave Benavidez, I don't think is a good fighter. I don't think he's even a very good fighter. I think he's a great fighter. I think he's a guy that, you could argue, forget accomplishments, just all out hands. He might be the best fighter in the world. He's that damn good, and he continues to show that in his performances. But one thing I know from my own personal experience in life is that, and I've never been married. I never had kids. I'm not as famous as Dave Benavidez, so maybe you could say the stakes for me weren't as high. But I'll tell you guys a personal story. I remember like 9 years ago, the only like real girl I've ever been in love with, or girlfriend I really ever had, back when I was like 22. I'm 31 now. I remember that didn't work out, and things and shit got really bad really really quick, and psychologically, it almost it really challenged my love for this boxing thing right here. It was hard to focus. It was hard to dial in. It was hard to really be my best self, and it took years to get over that whole situation, because things ended so badly, right? And I wish the best for Benavidez. I hope it works out for him, but like, it's the kind of thing. And mind you, he's got kids involved. He's got kids involved. He's got a career to manage. I'm sure he has his own personal demons, as we all do, to deal with. On top of that, he's dealing with a lot. And so these are things that could really prevent Benavidez from reaching his full potential in boxing, and that would be a crime for Dave Benavidez. So my reaction to the whole situation is that, and this is the greater point that I wanted to speak to, because I'm on social media and I'm seeing a lot of people use this whole situation with Dave Benavidez from his personal life to make fun of, like, the fact, because some people don't like Benavidez because they feel he ducks Jao Pataya, or he's not fighting certain guys, and that's fine. That's a boxing opinion, but they're using this to kind of make fun of him, and really just downplay him and degrade him, and I think that's wrong. I think that's uncalled for. And my thing is this, right? We can all make fun of somebody and degrade them and put them down and say what they are or say what they aren't. But the reality is, you're no better than him. I'm no better than you. We all have demons in our closet. We all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Sure, maybe he fails in front of the world, but I'm sure if you're out there and if you're criticizing Dave Benavidez and you're saying that, oh well, he's using this, this is what he gets for ducking Jao Pataya, this, that, and the third, you're wrong. You're 1,000% wrong, and there's no place for that, and there's no place for that. Now, do I know the full truth about Benavidez and his girl? No, I don't. Nor do I care. Nor do I really care to, because it's not my business or your business. And the only reason I'm speaking about it is because it was posted on a public forum. But I'm really using it. I'm really using it more to speak to the world that we all sin and fall short of the glory of God. I don't do drugs. I don't have alcohol problems, but I love women. So sometimes, there's been many times, even down to this day, where, yes, I do have lust problems, right? Benavidez, he's tested positive for coke. He may still have those demons now. He's, a tall, rich guy who can beat the shit out of people, so I'm sure he has no problem with the woman department. He may have that too, right? But no matter what your addiction, what your vice is, everyone's going through something. Everyone's going through something. So the main idea of this video, if you don't take nothing else from this video, like, you need to be kind to people. You need to be kind to people, and you got to treat people with grace, with class, with dignity and respect, because you don't know what somebody's going through. I've had friends in the last couple of years get gunned down in broad daylight. I've had friends suffer illnesses and just all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff has happened to me in my life, away from YouTube. So I'm saying all this to say that I wish Benavidez, like, in his situation, the best, and I want to see him continue to be the best he can be, because when he's the best he can be, it's better for the sport of boxing. And I'm never against the family unit breaking up. I think one of the problems in America is that the degradation of the family unit. And on top of that, like, we all have our afflictions, we all have our vices, like, but we all need Jesus. We all need Jesus. We all need the Lord to come save us, because, like, the good book says, I'll rejoice and be glad in your love, for you knew the anguish and the affliction of my soul. So if this video somehow gets to David Benavidez or anybody in his family and they want to show it to him, all I can say to David is that anything that he's going through or that his family's going through, the Lord is there through it all, and God can make the Lord can make anybody's life become restored, and He could replace anxiety with joy, right? I get anxiety sometimes coming on this camera sometimes, but a lot of times I pray to the Lord and He replaces it with He replaces that anxiety with a lot of joy and focus, and have a great time on here. So that's my reaction to the whole David Benavidez situation. I'm not going to really speak more on it than that. I just wanted to use it to speak to something greater, which is that people got to start being more kind to each other. Everybody has their vices. Everybody falls short of the glory of the Lord, and everybody needs Jesus. And I'll just leave it at that.